On the Football Show, NorthJerseySports.com's original multimedia series talking all things football across North Jersey. This is Season 6, Episode 4, and we have a lot to talk about. I am Corey Doviak, being joined by my illustrious panel of North Jersey football insiders, starting with the venerable one. He is Jimmy Avatabile. Jimmy, another week in the books, my man.
Yeah, before you know it, it'll be Giant Stadium, MetLife Stadium, but it's beginning to feel a little bit like football weather.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not 90. Now we're in the 80s. Another guy who loves the heat and standing on the sidelines while sweating and taking pictures is the one and only Richie Ballgame Barton. What's going on, Richie B?
It's definitely football season. Finally a breeze coming through. And, league title races are all starting to take shape.
Yeah, it's true. It's getting late early around here as some things were settled over the weekend as far as, who's in contention and who's not and how we're going to move forward with the rest of this season. We are going to talk all about it tonight, and we are also going to talk about the big one that took place on Friday night. Forget North Jersey rankings and everything else. We're talking national rankings. We're talking about St. Peter's Prep hosting Bergen Catholic. St. Peter's Prep with a big win there, and gracious enough to join us tonight after a tough loss for his squad, the first of the season, and his first as the Bergen Catholic head coach, is Vito Campanile. So we're going to have him on shortly. And, it's tough in the division formerly known as the Big North United. Nothing is free. And, a loss there is nothing to worry about as far as long-term ramifications, Jimmy. But it's going to be interesting to hear what Vito has to say. His first loss as a Bergen Catholic head coach.
Yeah, you mentioned, there is no margin for error when you're playing at that level. And, a couple of bad practices leads into a loss. Obviously St. Peter's a very, very talented team. Might be the most talented team in that division. So certainly losing to them is not is not a thing where people should look at and say, wow, how did they lose to them? I mean, St. Peter's is very, very talented.
We talked about it last year, too. It's going to be that rare team that goes through that schedule undefeated. Hasn't happened in a while, and probably not going to happen again, for at least in the foreseeable future. So we'll get to that first, and then we will talk about all of the other happenings from Week 3 and preview what's coming up this weekend. All right, well, it's a big moment here on this edition of the Football Show as we welcome in our guest this evening, joining us courtesy of the Felician University Hotline. We are keeping up with the Campaniles. This time it's Vito, the head coach of the Bergen Catholic Crusaders. Coach, thanks for joining us here on the Football Show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, well, it's a great time to have you on, too. First of all, we should say this, Jimmy. Vito has been gracious enough to join us. You reached out to him last week, said we'd come on the show this week. That was before, that was when everything was flying high for the Crusaders. Friday night, they take a loss at St. Peter's Prep. You text them back, say, hey, you still want to come on? Vito says, yeah, I'll come on. Not afraid of one loss, and really no shame in it. Vito, we'll start there. I mean, your kids were flying high going into Cave and Point, and things didn't turn out the way you wanted.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got knocked down more than one peg there. So, but you know what? Like I said to Jim, I've known Jimmy a long time. I said, you got to face the music, and you got to stand up and dust yourself off, and learn from it, and that's all we could really do, and that's exactly what we plan on doing.
Jimmy and I, just before you came on the air here, I wrote down a whole page worth of stuff because we have a bunch of things we want to talk to you about. Some of it even pertains to this year's Bergen Catholic high school football team. But, being the family that you come from, the experience that all of you have in this game of high school football and going, at the higher levels now too, you coming into BC this year. Jimmy, why don't we pick a direction, Jimmy? Let's see where this conversation goes.
Yeah, obviously, Coach, you were very successful at Westwood. You went to Seton Hall, and you did a very good job with limited support, so to speak. Expectations are high. You take the Bergen job. And, the first thing I want to ask you is, the kids were so used to your brother, Nunzio, moved on to Rutgers, as we all know. What do you think the similarities are between you, and what are the differences as a coach between you and Nunzio?
The similarities, I think we both, I think number one thing reason we both coach, I think, is relationships, and I think that you gain equity with your players the longer you're with them. And when I say equity, I mean trust equity. And I think that they understand how important they are to you. And with the exception of my own kids, the players I coach, I always say are the most important guys to me. So with the exception of my wife and kids, that's kind of what we do. It's an all-consuming job, and I would hope that every one of the guys understands how committed I am, and I know they know how committed Nuns was, and so I think they get a similar message in that sense, and that keeping a family environment and the right values and winning football games.
How about the transition for you? Nuns goes to Rutgers, and everybody says, well, Vito will just step right in. And you have. I mean, listen, we're not going to be surprised don't be surprised if we're calling you after the last day of the season wanting to talk about your state championship. Certainly, but, it's one thing to just say, oh, pick up where your brother left off. It's another thing to actually pick up where your brother left off. What are the challenges of taking over a monster program at the high school level like Bergen Catholic? I mean, you've done great everywhere else you've been. You've got a history of winning and everything else, but I'm sure there's, some differences that come along with this new title.
Yeah, that's a great question, Craig. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's a pretty unique situation because very rarely does the defending number one team in the state have a coaching opening. So, and to be honest with you, the thing I think that I've been blessed with is a great staff and guys that have stayed in place and guys that I've known for the majority of my life that are on my staff. So there's really been a lot of great guys to lean on as far as, Ronnie Carty's been my best friend growing up, and Coach Toll, who I've known since I'm 11 years old, and Tony DeBellis, our defensive coordinator. He was one of my Pop Warner coaches. So there's some guys there that I really had that great opportunity to lean on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, you mentioned the defending champs last year, and in this year you returned a good portion of that team. Talk about the expectations at Bergen Catholic, maybe compared to other places.
Yeah, I kind of compare. I think that it is the highest level of expectation, and I think it's real easy to say you want to win a state championship or you're going to win a state championship, and we find out it's a heck of a lot harder to do that. So it's especially in today's world of New Jersey high school football. There's so many good programs, so much parity within our league and division that if you don't come out every day and play at the optimal level of football, you're going to have something happen like happened to us on Friday night. So we got to learn from it, and we got to continue to get better and be consistent. That's all I can say.
The other thing that we were talking about, and I don't even mean to put this in a Bergen Catholic context. Let's just say a team from northern Bergen County, anyone going down to Cave and Point on a Friday night. And it's different. And, right. I was talking to Jimmy about this, too, because, I live up here in northern Bergen County, and if I had to go cover a game down in, Hudson County, I got to take into account traffic, travel, the lane closures on the Pulaski Skyway, lane closures on 495, right? And I'm not trying to.
It's like you're going to a different planet in a lot of ways. Yeah. And to be honest with you guys, our new president, Dr. Mahoney, was great. He let us out of school after senior lunch, so we didn't have to go to last period, and we were able to go to a Lutheran church in Bayonne and eat an early dinner. But even with that being said, it's a tough travel day. It's a difficult place to play, and they got it lined up pretty good down there to St. Peter's, no question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to offer you an excuse route because I know you wouldn't take it, but just the logistics. I mean, it was almost as hard, I'm sure, as going down to Grayson, Georgia to open up the season. You got to figure out all these things. Yeah, you don't want to leave too early. You don't want to leave too late.
No matter where you have to play, you have to play. So, there's a lot more that goes into it to that, but. When you lose a game as a coach, my first thing to do is always go to self-reflection and see what I can do better And I said that to the kids from step one. You know, it's not like we care about them any less or we think any less of them because we lost the game. And we just know we got to do a better job coaching. We got to do a better job competing throughout the week. And like I promised them on Friday night, and we started doing it yesterday, we're gonna get better from it.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, you mentioned the parity in the league as far as every week having to come out and play an A game or as close to an A game as possible. The first 2 games you play out-of-state games, you go down and you beat a very talented team in Georgia. Then you avenge a loss from last year against Archbishop Wood. Just how difficult is it to have a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid be able to stay focused and give a great effort for pretty much, 3 months?
Yeah, it's pretty magical if you can do it. I mean, and you always say, hey, they're high school kids, and they are. So our energy was not great the other night. Our vibe going into the game was not excellent. We just didn't have that same energy. But I can assure you, it was like a battle royal out here today. So in a lot of ways, I think that step back and really fix that and refocus you and reharness your energy and your focus.
How about this division? Yeah, we've had your brother on last year, I think, a couple of years ago. I've referred back to it so many times. I thought it was a great line. Nunzio said it's best on best every week. And this year especially because there's no bye anywhere in the schedule. So you're going, if June 11th was the official start date, I'm sure you guys were going from June 11th. You're going to ride this thing straight through into December. Yeah, talk about that aspect of it, not only from the Bergen Catholic perspective, but from the broader high school football perspective of, where this is all going. Are we in a good spot? Are we doing the right thing? Where are we?
Yeah, I personally, and not to get on a soapbox, I do not think that not having a bye, especially with the gauntlet we're playing, is a good thing at all.
I agree.
I think that it should be a little bit more spread out. I think that the contact and the heat acclimatization should be done in the summer. And I'm not so sure that we should, I personally always give my guys 2 weeks off in the summer. I definitely want them to be high school kids. But at the same time, I think we're working against ourselves. Really, you get 1 day of contact and then you're able to have a scrimmage. And if you're playing these out-of-state games, you're always behind the 8 ball because those guys have played and practiced already. So I would like to see some of that get changed, guys, to be honest with you. I think we could streamline the process a little better. But, obviously I'm only one coach in this state, so, it had to be a collective coalition to do that.
So, do you think maybe pulling 1 game out of the schedule somewhere for everybody might be beneficial? Mandate a bye. You got to have a bye.
Yeah, I think we can extend it and have a bye week. I really do. Or, like the schools down south. I mean, we're starting, this year we started the last day of August, or the first day of September. So,
yeah.
I really don't think that I still think you could fit a bye week in there and go into the beginning of December. I don't think that would be bad, and I think it would be probably pretty good for the kids' bodies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, player safety is all the rage, as well it should be, and
no question.
It's going to take somebody in a leadership position to actually lead from from that position. We'll see, but right. Guys, we're most of the guys that we're talking to too feel similarly to you, so maybe it's something that can get done. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Coach, I went to one of your scrimmages against St. Joe's Prep, and I saw a bunch of kids had some nagging injuries, who was banged up, who, might have had a concussion, whatever. Why do you feel that it appears to be more injuries now with less contact than there was maybe 20 years ago? And you remember your dad's practices, they were like wars every day. And it didn't seem as many kids were getting injured. What do you think is behind that?
Well, I'm a huge believer in kids get into what we call hitting shape or contact shape. And I think that when you have the ramp up where you're not allowed to hit and then you kind of have to go full tilt for a few days, it's really hard to overcome and sustain with that. I think if it was a little more spread out, you probably could avoid a lot of that. You're not going to avoid it all. Football's always going to be football, and there's always going to be those injuries. I mean, you're talking to a guy. I had 6 surgeries in my college career, so it does happen. But at the same time, I do think if we were able to ramp up or spread it out a little bit more, we'd probably be in a better position. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's probably the right opinion, too. How about this league now? I mean, we've talked about the schedule. You played the 2 out-of-state games against top-notch competition. You went down to Cave and Point on Friday, and then you return home. And what do you know about this team that you're going to be facing this week, too? Bergen Bosco, here we go again.
Yeah, it's a little game, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, just the energy in the hallway of the school, I mean, it's different. I mean, now I've watched it since I was, I've watched it since, Rob Nutile was the quarterback at Don Bosco playing in 1984 against Tony DeBellis, who's our defensive coordinator. I watched that game in the state. I remember it that long ago. So I have a great understanding of the history, but obviously being a part of it for the first time is something that's pretty special and pretty unique. And just being on the day-to-day ground floor of it, it's awesome because I'm sure the culture at Bosco is no different than ours in the fact that everybody's talking about it, everybody's going to be there, and everybody wants to be a part of it. It's in my opinion, the greatest rivalry in America.
So, what are the keys for you guys?
Well, the keys for us is, we got to do a better job hanging on to the football, making better decisions. And, we had 9 penalties and 5 sacks down at Cave and Point. I don't care who we play. If we do that, we're not going to be successful. So, we got to make sure we avoid turnovers. We got to do a better job protecting our quarterback. And then, obviously, we can't have penalties. And if we do a good job at those 3 things, I think we're a tough team to beat. But I think anybody who did what we did the other night is going to have a hard time winning. And the guys know that, and I know that, and the coaches know that.
Jimmy, what else you got?
Yeah, I just want to mention, Coach, Josh McKenzie, obviously coming into this year, one of your leaders, one of your best players, goes down in a scrimmage, hurts his knee. Apparently his season might be over. Talk about what you lose, not only on the field, being a tough interior runner, that what he brings, a toughness to your offense, but what does he bring what do you lose from a leadership point of view on the field without Josh?
Yeah. Right. I mean, the tangible benefit of him playing is he's as good as any guy there is. But the intangibles is the irreplaceable part of Josh McKenzie. I've been around a lot of competitive guys. I've been around a lot of workers. That kid he's on a different planet, and he really, he is a football player through and through. So, and I don't back off the statement. Like people say, how do you replace him? I don't think you replace him just because of the type of person he is. He's an unbelievable kid. Just, as charismatic and as team-oriented as any guy I've ever been around. And, he's a great kid. And that's not to say we don't have a lot of great players on our team. I think we got one of the best running backs in the country in Ramir Johnson on our team. Yeah. But it's just exactly what you said. The intangibles are the things that, Josh, it's really hard to replace. And, it's so far beyond football with him, guys. He's such he's a coach's dream, and he's just a great person, unbelievable person to be around.
Yeah, and now we'll bring in our co-host on the wrestling show here on NorthJerseySports.com, Bergen County Assistant Wrestling Coach Donnie Spataro, who would like to yell at you for him losing the wrestling season, perhaps, too. No, just kidding. Donnie is not here. No, but you're right. And you hate it for any kid. Senior year, college decision made. It should be all about just getting out there last time, and it's rough for him. And it's too bad because, people would love to see him play too. But listen, Vito, you're the best. We appreciate it. Last night something came up, and you still made time for us tonight. We do appreciate it. We realize we are a local internet show. And for you taking your time out of the busy schedule that we know you have on Don Bosco Prep Week at Bergen Catholic, it's class, and we appreciate it. And that does not mean we will not be calling you again because we like having you on.
No, guys, I love listening to you guys. My son's, he plays for the Bergen County Stars, 6th grader. He listens to you guys every week. So, you guys got some clout with us. We love your show, and anything we could ever do to help you guys out, you do a great job.
All right, we're going to get the Bergen County Stars coach on next week. And, Vito, thanks again, man. We appreciate it. As expected, interesting stuff there with Bergen Catholic head coach Vito Campanile. And, the Big North United Division rolls on long way to go before anything is decided as far as state championship and everything else like that. So let's move on now. Let's talk about some of the other games that were played last week, the ones that stuck out to us. And Richie B, I'll start with you because you had it all planned out. When you were on the show last week, you were very excited to get the Friday night game, Pascack Valley against Paramus. Pascack Valley on the road, two teams unbeaten coming in. We were going to see where both of them stood. Paramus on the way back, Pascack Valley on the way back. Where are they at this point of the year? Are they legitimate contenders? And, you got the answer. One of them certainly is.
Yeah, I mean, I went to that game, and I was like, I got the closest game of the night. I'm excited.
Yeah, we almost wrestled.
It's 7.5 minutes in, and it's 28-0, and it's lights out. I mean, Paramus' first play, wide receiver schemes just the kid, breaks a tackle, gone up the sideline, 61 yards. Next play, called by Trevor Bob. Takes a handoff, goes through a huge hole at the middle, untouched, 67 yards, and before Pascack Valley even blinks, they're down 2 scores. And I mean, Paramus really put it out early, and it was 48-14, and it almost didn't even feel like that. I mean, which is weird because Pascack Valley had a chance to get back in the game. Scored on the final play of the half, scored on their first drive in the second half, and then they focused to score on their next drive, but they cashed in. But Paramus, man, they did everything well. I mean, they tackled well. They dominated the line of scrimmage. The players are capable guys who, can pick up big chunks of yardage. Kyle Jacob is maybe the most underrated running back of all time. This kid, power, speed, he's on both. They're going to be a real tough team to beat moving forward.
Was it a matter of, were they just physically better? You know what I mean?
I mean, if they played again the next week, like if they played again this week, I don't think it would be 48-14. But Paramus, was better. They were better on that day, for sure. They really set the tone up front, and that's the bottom line. If you can set the tone up front, Paramus is honestly their biggest problem is penalties. And if they don't get that cleaned up, that is something that will hurt them later on in the year, especially when they face the get in the state tournament. But I'll tell you what, I do not want to be on their side of the bracket. If they're playing as well as they can try, they're going to be a real tough team to knock off.
Jimmy, did that surprise you as much as it surprised me?
I thought with the experience coming back, for last year, if you remember, PV played a lot of younger kids. I was a little bit shocked by the ease. As Richie mentioned, you're going to figure a 30-point win. But, Paramus is talented, and Joe Sabella's got them going. They're very, very athletic, and they are certainly a dangerous team from here on in.
Yeah.
But also, when you get two somewhat similar teams that play, I guess, I don't even want to, they don't play similar styles, but, the same, size-wise are similar, but Paramus, defensively, Paramus did a great job tackling, and Pascack Valley struggled, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they both kick on from here. Pascack Valley's got to regroup quickly, and Paramus, they didn't want to read the press clippings, including those on NorthJerseySports.com. Richie B doing a good job with the game story and the photos and everything else. So, just 1 week out of the season, and we'll see where it goes from there. Jimmy, I would probably should have gone back to the non-publics just to finish off after talking to Coach Campanile, but some other things happening around. First of all, I give credit both to West Orange and for Hackensack for taking the games against Bosco and Paramus Catholic, respectively. Bosco 47-20 over West Orange. Paramus Catholic 54 points against Hackensack, even though they did give up 42.
Yeah, it's funny. We go back some 15 years ago in the NJL, which none of the public schools wanted to play the parochials anymore. It created this whole move to this Super Football Conference, and now teams want to play the parochials for that power point. The ability to get those power points, the multiplier. It's just interesting where it seems we've come full circle.
Yeah, it certainly has. And then the other big one took place on Saturday in news broken on Twitter by Brian Carr. The game was moved from Friday to Saturday. St. Joseph Regional against DePaul, and that's a good win. Augie Hoffman's return, Jimmy, 24-17 at DePaul. Good chance we may see that one again somewhere down the road, no?
Well, Joe's has moved up to 4 this year, and DePaul will stay in 3. But, the interesting thing is it was a nip-and-tuck game into the second quarter, and St. Joe's kind of found their identity, I think. They went back to a 2-back attack, and they have a huge offensive line, and they were, it was a ground and pound situation, and it was almost, you could see a body blow, and then in the fourth quarter they wore down DePaul. I mean, obviously DePaul, very talented team, but and the ability of St. Joe's offensive and defensive lines to go one way compared to DePaul, who, tried to rotate, 6 or 7 kids in, but a lot of those kids are going 2 ways. It was in the mid-'80s. It was very muggy, and that certainly helps, St. Joe's. And, when St. Joe's wants to be a power football team, which they've been for the last 25, 30 years, they're a very, very difficult team to beat. At times it seems like they want to be a spread team and throw it. But, I think they kind of found themselves in that second half the other day.
Yeah. When you had a quarterback like Patty who could sling it around last year, he graduates, and sometimes you make adjustments, and then it takes you a while to realize, it's time to get back to the old school ways. I find a lot of that going on at Old Japan now, too, which I'll take this opportunity to wow the manager of the Northern Valley Regional High School Old Japan Fighting Knights. The manager of that team lives in my house, and while she's not within earshot, Richie B, I have to mention that Wayne Hills 35, Northern Valley Old Japan 16. That was a marquee game on Friday night, and Wayne Hills got the better of it.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge win for Wayne Hills. Not only that they won, but how they won. Especially with some tough games later on in the year against Ramapo and tough to say Valley team, PCT right in a row. I mean, this was a real big measuring stick for them, and they passed the flying colors. The question is, for Old Japan, how do they respond to this? Because they have Ramapo right, coming up this week, and that's going to be a real tough battle for them. But Brian Dunn, he always sees the circle of weapons as well as in Bergen County. So I think that's going to be a great game. And but Wayne Hills right now, you got to say, I would imagine that they're the team to beat in North 1 Group 3.
It's North Group 4. I mean, Jimmy, it's going to take us a little while to get a handle on this revamped playoff system with the North and everything else, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the year as things begin to get a little bit more narrowed down. But it's tough right now to figure it out. Wayne Hills is in Group 4. Old Japan's in Group 4. They're 2 good teams in there. And Jimmy, Richie brings up a great point. Ramapo next week. I mean, it's been a gauntlet for Old Japan from the start of the season. Ramapo is undefeated so far. They are going to pay a visit to Old Japan on Friday night, and that's one of the marquee games of this weekend.
Yeah, and no question, you mentioned Ramapo, undefeated. A.J. Wingfield runs that offense to perfection. That they run a lot of that RPO stuff. He gets it out of his hands quick. They're very talented on the perimeter, very good running backs. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. Old Japan, very, very tough schedule, as was mentioned. So, they'll be back. Coach Dunn will have them ready. They'll learn from, the Wayne Hills game. Just want to mention, Charles Njoku for Wayne Hills, the third Njoku brother. I mean, 4 touchdown receiving, looked like by far the best player on the field. And, Verona transferred Tom Sharkey threw 4 touchdowns for Wayne Hills. So, they had come on 1-1, 2-0. Excuse me, 1-1. They had lost a tough one out in Utah, and then had a sluggish win against Wayne Valley the week before. So they certainly needed a very good effort, and they got it the other night.
Yeah. What else, Jimmy? Let's go through what else stuck out to you from last weekend's action. Games we should talk about here, and then we'll talk about what's coming up.
Yeah, just a couple of the NJIC. Hasbrook Heights again easily over Beckton. Josiah Purdy, 5 touchdowns. He's just a very dynamic player. Their quarterback Spencer Lee, 7 for 9 for 181 yards, 2 touchdown passes. And all of a sudden they unveil a new running back that, 8 carries, 140 yards and a touchdown. Michael Robertson, very, very good athlete, very good speed. So all of a sudden that gives Hasbrook Heights a 3-headed monster. That offense just seems to be getting better and better. And the defense played a lot better than their opening game against Saddlebrook. So, they're going to be a tough out. They're a team that you could see in the semis, certainly. Another game was Park Ridge over St. Mary's, big, 34-0. 3 games they've outscored their opponents 85-6. When you're giving up 2 points a game defensively, you're doing something right. Keep an eye on them. And over in Woodridge, 13-6 Emerson, and a defensive struggle. Emerson, goes to 3-0. They're certainly a team to watch. So, at NJIC, along with New Milford and Rutherford, that picture, that top 4 or 5 teams are starting to come into shape. So, it'll be an exciting NJIC season the rest of the way.
Yeah, you got to throw Glen Rock in there too. They beat my fighting Tiger.
Yep.
Beat my fighting Tiger Lions. Yeah, no, some good ones coming up, Jimmy. I'm just looking at Emerson. Go ahead, Richie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Emerson and Park Ridge are pretty much on a collision course right now. And if everything holds up and they both play their capabilities, they're both going to go into that game 5-0, and that's going to be a huge one. The team that really has jumped out to me, that's really come to the radar in Norfolk 3, because a lot of people think it's going to, Riverdale and Ramapo are not necessarily shoo-ins, but certainly the favorites to get to the final there. It's hard to go with it, but not many people are talking about Lakeland. Lakeland's doing a nice job right now. At 3-0, 2 big games coming up against a much improved West Milford team, and then at Westwood. They win 2 games. They may finish the regular season undefeated, and where does that put them seed-wise? I don't know with the PowerPoints, but they're certainly a team to watch out for.
Yeah, and Richie loves Lakeland because that's one of the closest high schools to his new abode down there. So you're going to talk up the Lancers big time. I smell Richie B. West Milford, Lakeland. That's what I used to cover for the Suburban Trends back in the day. That's a rivalry game up in that northwest corner of Passaic County. Richie ball game might be all over it. Getting back to the Big North, or the NJSFC this past weekend. A couple games I just wanted to mention. Westwood 2-1 after a 20-17 nail-biter over Ramsey. And, Jimmy, we've talked about, Brian Carr, we've talked about Westwood. A little bit of rebuilding to do, but you got to give them credit. I mean, you can see it starting to pay off a little bit, and then they hold off a plucky Ramsey team to get to 2-1 on the year.
It doesn't matter what the records are. Ramsey Westwood is always a nail-biter. The years that Westwood won back-to-back titles, I remember Westwood having to stop a 2-point conversion at Ramsey to hold on to the victory. Westwood, their weakness right now appears to be the size of their lines, offensively and defensively, but their skilled kids are very, very good. So, they found a way to get it done. They're 2-1. They responded off that loss to Riverdale. Riverdale, obviously, a couple of steps ahead of them. Then they go to Dumont. They struggle for most of the game. They find a way to win that, and then they pull out the victory, the other night. And they're going out to Fort Lee this week. And if they can come home with a victory, they're 3-1, and they put themselves in a position for a possible playoff run.
Yeah, you're right. 2-1 Fort Lee, we should mention, too. Billy Straub doing a good job with the Bridgman down there. And Squeaker 14-13 over Pascack Hills. So, it's going to be a big test, no doubt about it, against Westwood this weekend. But, at this point of the season, I bet you the Bridgemen will be happy at 2-1 with a chance to, hang in there against a good Westwood team. Riverdale now 3-0, 35-7 over Demarest in a rematch of last year's North 1 Group 3 state sectional semifinal. That was a great game last year, not so much this year. Riverdale just, hasn't missed a beat, and they continue on. And the other one that I have written down from the NJSFC is Ridgewood. Got its first win. It opened the season last week against Old Japan, took a tough L, and then bounced back against a decent Irvington. Not that I know anything about Irvington football, but by all reports, Jimmy, they were a pretty good squad, and that's a good win for Chuck Johnson's side.
It certainly is. Irvington has a bunch of Division I kids. I know they were missing 2 or 3 of them. But, Ridgewood's going to go in that game, and they're going to run their wing teeth to perfection, and that's what they did, and they grounded out a big win over Irvington. At the end of the season, you're going to look back and say, that was certainly a quality win, and, Ridgewood's back on track.
Yep. All right, so that's last week, unless, Richie, you got anything else that we may have missed?
The only thing I really want to highlight is Mawa. After getting beat 35-3 in their opener against Crusaders, they traveled to Mountain Lakes, a team that is perennially, a very tough Group 1 team, and Mawa gets a 49-48 victory in double overtime. That is a huge one for them, and I think, maybe that springboards them to a successful season moving forward. I mean, they have a bunch of winnable games coming up, and if they can put it together, they'll be right back in the playoffs where they usually are.
Yeah, Jimmy, big win for Chris Diaz there in the post-Jeff Remo era at Mawa.
Yeah, they had those great teams that won back-to-back, and they were struggling a little bit last year, inexperience, and then, as you mentioned, they lost to, what turned out to be a very, very good Paramus team, as we found out again last week. Certainly a big win. I know they were down in that game and fought back, and to win it in double overtime shows a lot about that program, the pride in that Mawa program.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's turn the page to what is coming up this week. It will be the return of the head Husky. Brian Carr will be back on terra firma in these here United States of America. So, he's going to get to about 14 games this weekend. I'm sure he's going through withdrawal at this point. Jimmy, what's your calendar look like, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, obviously Saturday you have the granddaddy of them all. You have Don Bosco at Bergen. Bergen licking their wounds a little bit. Interesting to see how they respond. That's another game that no matter who's the better team, in the fourth quarter, it always seems to be close. Friday night, you have Cresskill at Hasbro Kites. That's another interesting game.
Yep.
And, Hasbro Kites just seems to be getting better and better and better. They use that bye week, I think, very well. The bye week, obviously Richfield dropped the program. And, they're getting better and better. And, New Milford, to me, is another team that just silently going about their business. And, look forward to seeing them.
Yeah. Richie B., how about your slate?
There are definitely some good games on the schedule. It comes out to be one or two of them. The one on Friday, it would be PCT at PCT, pretty much needs to win the people. And it's going to be tough to do. And they go to Ridgewood, a Ridgewood team coming off a good win. That's going to be an interesting one because Passaic County, after a tough loss to Seagull Prep, they're in desperation right now, and we'll see how they respond to that. And then on Saturday, you got Glen Rock and Weatherford. The winner of that will head into the NGIC playoffs, and we have a good shot at the top seed in the state tournament.
Good ones, all of them. I haven't checked out, you got Old Japan Ramapo this weekend. I'll probably be there on Friday night. Saturday, I haven't really checked out too much, but it's getting interesting here in North Jersey football. We are all over it, and we will be back next week on The Football Show.
Follow the leader.